Hello, everyone, and welcome again. I'm really excited to introduce you, or actually, maybe reintroduce you to Laura Lamb, my special guest expert today. Laura Lamb is a menopause practitioner and member of the British Menopause Society. She's also the founder of Menopause Mastery, a one-to-one private treatment plan for women looking to reduce menopausal symptoms naturally and also lose up to 50 pounds of menopausal weight loss inside 6 months. Laura, I am so excited to hear what you have to speak about today. And I just wanted to open up the floor if you want to say hello to the audience.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me again. It's always a pleasure to be able to have a platform to come on and speak about menopause, especially for the vast amount of women that I'm sure you're trying to target that massively need factual information. So it is always great to provide as much as I can.
Absolutely. So, can you please give us an overview of menopause, the different stages, what people experience in these, and yeah, just share your immense knowledge with us?
Yeah, menopause and weight loss is one of our most asked about questions or topics inside of both of our social media platforms, our free community, and then obviously clients coming to us. So it is always something that I like to speak about, honestly, because there's so much misinformation that is targeted to women around weight loss and fat loss, especially at the start of the year. In January, we see a massive increase. So when I was deciding what I would want to come on and really hone in, because menopause is a very large topic, weight loss over the age of 40 and those natural changes that we experience that cause a lot of natural weight gain, even when we don't change how we exercise or eat, is something that I really wanted to just dive down deep. So hopefully everybody will be able to decipher between what is factual, what is actually just social media BS, and then hopefully have three or five tools that they can actually start to implement then towards the end of our conversation today. So yeah, let's peel it back first to obviously just give a bit of a brief overview in terms of menopause, the three main sort of shifts that we experience during menopause, and then kind of the five things that if anybody was looking to have optimal health when they are going through and after menopause, what five things that they would want to be focused on. Now, as you correctly said, I am a member of the British Menopause Society, sister member of the North American Society. So everything that I will be speaking about today is directly coming from that evidence-based research. Anybody that follows me on social media, anybody is a part of our free lab, which I will talk about later today, you will know that I do present receipts, I present proof and everything that I speak about, just so because there is a lot of gimmicky misinformation and so on. So menopause can be broken down into three areas. Okay, so we have obviously perimenopause, menopause, and then postmenopause. Now, menopause is just one day, which is the day that you learn that you have finished menstruating. So, kind of don't really need to massively worry about that. Menopause, perimenopause, and postmenopause. Now, on average, a woman will spend about 50% of her entire lifespan in menopause because menopause does not stop. Postmenopause is until end of life. Now, if we were to break down menopause into three concerns that people usually experience, they would be symptoms, health concerns, and then body composition shifts. Okay, so obviously symptoms. And when people start to begin going through perimenopause, which can begin at the age of like 36, late 30s, perimenopause can last anywhere between 5 to 10 years. And the average age of menopause, that range is 45 to 55. So it's very normal to experience perimenopause symptoms in your late 30s. Symptoms, there's about, and on record at the minute, there's about 56 different symptoms that a woman can be experiencing during perimenopause. You don't need to have a change in your cycle to be deemed perimenopause. That's just one of about 56 different symptoms. Perimenopause is a symptom-based diagnosis. It's not blood testing, which again leads to a lot of misdiagnosis when women go to their GPs and so on, and they're tested for blood, incorrectly tested, may I say, for blood work, etc., and then they're deemed normal and they leave the GP service without a lot of help. So it is symptom-based, and they will experience around 56. We know a lot of these: hot flashes, broken sleep, brain fog, mood swings, and so on. Itchy ears, burning feet, burning tongue sensation, a couple of ones that aren't as common, but they're actually very common. They're not commonly spoken about, but they're very common. The only real two symptoms that will naturally stop and go away in postmenopause is hot flashes and there's broken sleep. So when a woman goes through perimenopause and they're about 5 years into postmenopause, we will see a massive natural reduction of their hot flashes and their broken sleep. but the rest of our symptoms do last until end of life if untreated. So regardless if you're in perimenopause or postmenopause, the first concern that women will experience during menopause is those symptoms. The second concern, like I say, is their health factors. So we have estrogen receptors in every single organ system in our body. This is why we have itchy ears. We have estrogen receptors in our ears. So when that estrogen declines, that mucus in our ears start to dry up, which can cause itchiness for women. You have estrogen receptors on your skin. So again, when the estrogen begins to drop, women can have a sensation of something crawling over their skin. They can have hot, flashy skin. They can have itchy skin. Obviously, there's estrogen receptors in our gut. So this will impact things like your gut health as you continue to age. We have estrogen receptors that manage our bones. So again, we go through menopause, your bone health. So bone health, heart health, gut health, brain health are all things that would be a health concern as women go through menopause. That's our second area of things that change during menopause would be those health risks. And then finally, body composition. Now, body composition is a bit of an umbrella. It doesn't always necessarily mean weight gain. Some people can just see a vast reduction in their muscle mass. Some people can see a change in how their body stores fats. So maybe they don't gain anything per se on a scale, but their body maybe looks visibly different. And then other people will gain weight. So it's a little bit of an umbrella. But regardless if you're in peri or postmenopause, women will experience those three shifts on variations. Menopause is very unique to everybody, so there's no right way to do it.
That is fascinating, by the way, about the itching ears. I didn't know that.
It's so common. Itchy ears is so common. It's just not commonly spoken about. It's the same as sexual dysfunctions. In and around 75% of women report sexual dysfunction in terms of symptoms. But again, it's not commonly spoken about, so it's not usually commonly treated in terms of menopausal women.
Well, with 56 symptoms, I think you mentioned 56
Yeah.
symptoms. I think we could probably spend 56 hours plus on this, but I know a burning question, and since we only have a short time with you, I want to focus on one. And one of the most common complaints by women over 40, let's just use that general term. So during perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, that area is the weight gain. No matter if we just continue doing what we did in our 20s and 30s, all of a sudden, many of us experience just a sudden weight gain in places that we've never had it before. What we're doing is now isn't necessarily working like it did in our 20s and 30s. So on behalf of the thousands of women watching this, I would like to ask you, please talk about this. What kind of myths out there? What kind of false information? What do you commonly see? Explain this to us, please, because many of us want to know.
Yeah, so let's go into the myths first, and then we'll break it into two very easy sort of different categories around why women gain weight on a natural basis compared to their 20s and 30s as they go into menopause. So a couple of common myths that I see all the time. Firstly, HRT does not drive weight loss. I get asked this question a lot when women go on HRT, and then they'll be like, my weight's still going up. What's wrong? HRT does not drive weight loss. It can help with regards to reduction and managing symptoms. It can also help with regards to those health concerns. So if we take it back to those three categories of menopause, but it doesn't really drive anything in terms of weight loss. Metabolism is not broke. So again, this is another thing that women are very heavily targeted, especially right now in the industry of these like metabolism diet, reset your metabolism, fix your metabolism, boost your metabolism. Your metabolism, firstly, is a very complex system. It is not easily manipulated, so you cannot reset it. It's not like a light switch, you can't flick it on and off. But in terms of metabolism, when we think about weight loss, burning calories, and so on, it doesn't really change until about the age of 65. And even then, it changes minimally. So if you were to think about the rate of change, it's about an extra 14 calories across an entire year. So it's basically not worth talking about the changes after the age of 65 compared to your metabolism. So your metabolism is not the reason why you're gaining weight in relation to burning calories. Another myth is supplements. Okay, so again, the supplement industry massively targets menopausal women. Again, supplements do not drive weight loss in any shape or form. Supplements are just to supplement a diet, so they can help fill in gaps in terms of mineral deficiencies and so on, but they don't drive weight loss. Another thing that is talked about, and it's not that it doesn't work, it's just so massively overhyped, is fasting. So again, we hear a lot about fasting and women in menopause should fast and so on. Fasting is just a tool to get you into a calorie deficit. If you go from eating 3 meals a day to no longer eating breakfast, you're going to be eating less, i.e., you're eating in a calorie deficit, so you're losing weight. So it's just a tool to help people adhere to a calorie deficit. So it's not that it doesn't, it's just massively overhyped. Another reason why people will promote fasting online is inflammation. And we are going to talk about inflammation in a second. But if we were to think of a long list of things that drive and reduce inflammation in the body, fasting is on that list. It's just quite low down in the list. Like, there's a lot of other things that I would be recommending to women that would be more sustainable, more enjoyable, and actually something that they could do long term to effectively drive reduction of inflammation than fasting. So those are kind of myths that we see all day, every day when it comes to weight loss and menopause.
So to clarify just really quick on the fasting part, because I know a lot of my audience, we talk about nutrition and all of the things. Are you differentiating between like a 12-hour fast between like, after post dinner and, early mornings? So let's
Yeah.
say 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. or something.
Yeah.
There is, a sense of a natural fast, right? You're talking about.
Well, that's just going to sleep. Yeah, you're just going to sleep. Okay, so obviously you're not going to be waking up during the night to go on to be eating. So yeah, I'm not talking about sleeping. I'm talking about, when you extend that fast. So you're maybe not eating breakfast, you're breaking your fast at 12, 1, and so on. More so the intermediate fasting.
Okay, so just wanted to clarify that because a lot of people are interested about the fasting. So the 12-hour fast is pretty much the normal. Like you go to sleep, that's
You're just going to sleep. Yeah, you're just not eating anything before you go to bed, and then you're just going to sleep. So that's just a normal sleeping period. We wouldn't even really call that fasting.
Yeah. So, okay, why it was interesting what you said about the calories, like the difference in calories and the metabolism that happens not until we're 65 plus. So why?
Yeah.
Why is it so hard?
So we can break fat into two categories. We have subcutaneous fat and we have visceral fat. Now, both of these change over the age of 40, give or take. So subcutaneous fat is the fat that you can pinch on your skin. It's fat that you can visibly see. This is the fat that's driven by a calorie deficit. So if you're in a calorie surplus for too long, your body will increase your subcutaneous fat. So this is the fat that you can visibly see when you look in the mirror and so on. This is driven by a calorie deficit. Now, our calorie needs as we age do change. This is things like our muscle mass begins to decrease. So things like your energy expenditure and your exercise and so on will naturally lower. So women in general don't need as many calories as what they did before in order to just survive day to day. Now, there's a difference. I'm not talking about like 1,000-calorie diet or a 1,200-calorie diet at all. No, that's way too low for the vast majority of women. We're talking about a slight decrease. So let's say, for example, if you were to lose weight and you tracked your calories before and you were able to lose weight in a calorie deficit of, 1,600 calories, you may need to take them down to like 1,550 or 1,500 calories. So it's a slight decrease, but the calorie deficit is different. So if somebody is used to tracking their calories and then all of a sudden they go through menopause, they would need to just readjust that because of that energy expenditure. But the change to our subcutaneous fat is minimal. The biggest drive around why women gain weight is their visceral fat. So visceral fat naturally increases when we go through our perimenopause years. On average, obviously everybody is different, but on average, this will go from about 5% of your entire body fat to 15%. Now, that is natural changes. That's not being driven directly by a calorie surplus. Obviously, if you're massively inside a calorie surplus continuously, yes, that's going to be driving more visceral fat. But you don't need to be in a calorie deficit to have that natural increase. That's your hormonal shifts. This is being driven by things like those hormonal shifts as we go through menopause, inflammation, your gut health, the removal of non-removal of toxins and so on. So the reason why women over the age of 40 see this increase of weight gain and they look on a scale and so on is mainly down to that natural increase of visceral fat. And on women, our visceral fat, this is in and around our organs, but it's stored around our core. So it's commonly known as that menopause belly that people talk about a lot on social media. That's the increase of the visceral fat. Now, as health professionals, this is more concerning even just as a woman's physical appearance. That will get that woman down in her confidence levels and so on. But from a health perspective, Visceral fat is metabolically active. This is what is leading to things like heart disease, your metabolic syndrome, your high blood pressure, and so on. So it's very unhealthy for a woman to continue to gain weight as she's going through menopause, because more than likely it's actually that visceral fat.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's why we're experiencing the expanding belly, probably what frustrates women the most.
Yes.
Your jeans don't fit suddenly. And it's, you said it's a confidence issue too, but then more
Yeah.
importantly, a, a health issue. I mean,
Yeah.
cardiovascular disease is actually a really prominent factor for women in
Mm.
40. So you've explained really nicely the difference between the two fats. And it sounds to me as if we don't have a lot of control over the fact that as we age, we will tend to make more visceral fat. What can we
Right.
do about that? If that's the unhealthier fat,
Yeah.
what can we do
So
about
we need to be more cautious then in offsetting the things that actually drive it. Okay. So if we think about the things like I was saying that drives it, so it's inflammation, it's your nutrition choices, it's your low exercise, it's the hormonal shifts and so on. So we need to start trying to offset these, because previously you could have got away with maybe poor lifestyle qualities, like maybe having high cortisol on a continuous basis, and your body wouldn't have been reacting in the same way in terms of producing more visceral fat in the background. So we break them down. Firstly, one of the very first things that we will do with our clients when they come to us, and with things like you were saying about the expanding core and so on, is actually diving down into their gut health, because your gut health is targeted by two things. It's targeted by the menopausal shifts, but over the age of 45, we have a lot of natural aging things that aren't really connected to menopause, but both of these things drive poor gut health. And that poor gut health is driving an increase then in that inflammation. And that increase in inflammation is driving things like visceral fat. So over the age of 45, when I talk about that aging, we experience as women a large shift in the healthy bacteria in our gut. Okay. So we'll go throughout our entire lives with having nice, healthy diversity of bacteria in our gut, which helps things like your bowels, helps things like burn out your toxins, excrete things, and so on. But over the age of 45, on average of women, this starts to just kind of fall off a cliff. It does radically decline. And this is where a lot of women will have new food sensitivities that they didn't previously have. This is actually where mood swings are related to. So a lot of people think this is like a menopausal symptom. It's actually more of a gut health issue because of that age. 90% of our serotonin is produced inside your gut. So women will start to experience these shifts inside their gut health. And like I say, their body won't be able to handle that inflammation as well. It starts to increase inflammation, which then in turn will start to increase this visceral fat. So one of the very first things with our clients that we will look at then is regulating that gut health. Now, this is obviously very different for every single person. It depends on, firstly, are they eating things now that perhaps their body no longer can handle? And we obviously need to get rid of those things in their diet before we go and do anything else. So this could be a case of maybe getting a person to keep a bit of a food diary where they're tracking their bowel movements, they're tracking things like poor sleep, they're tracking things like poor energy drops, loading, etc. throughout the week. And then vice versa, then they're tracking their food intake. So we can then pair up to see, are they eating certain things and then they're having a bad night's sleep? Are they eating certain things and then their bowels aren't moving in the same way? And we would start to want to then eliminate some of those foods that their bodies can no longer handle. And in turn, then that will put less pressure and stress inside their gut. And in turn, then will help in terms of inflammation. So that would be one of the very first things that you would do if you were looking to improve your gut health. The second thing that you would then want to do after you've eliminated foods that your body can no longer handle is then trying to optimize your gut. So like I said, it doesn't have that nice range of healthy bacteria anymore. So we need to replace this. A lot of people will reach straight away for probiotics. Nothing wrong with that, but you can get a lot of probiotic benefits from actually just natural food. This will be things like fermented foods, yogurts, and so on. Again, it depends on a person's overall what they can eat and what they consume, what they like to eat. So you may need a probiotic, you may be able to get it from natural food intake. It really just depends. And another aspect that really stresses, and I'll play on the word stresses, people's gut is stress. So one of the very first things that women will experience when they're overly stressed is an inflamed gut. So again, this is putting more pressure on your gut health and in turn increasing that inflammation and in turn increasing that visceral fat. And we all know that one of the side effects of menopause is heightened cortisol. So we do become less stress resilient as we go through menopause. So it's very important more than ever before to ensure that you have really good stress management tools in place so that you can keep that stress level down in order to help your gut health. So that'll be one of the very first things that when women come with heightened visceral fat and they have a weight goal in mind, we'd be looking at is their gut health, even before we move on to things like minerals, nutrition, and so on. And I'm sure we could talk about that in a second.
Yeah, I would love to dive into that. It's just, I want to reemphasize that many of us women that are like, oh my God, I'm gaining weight, I don't know what to do. Our first inclination many times is to go to the doctor, get the HRT, get the,
Yeah.
whatever it is. And what you're saying, and what I agree with as a nutritionist, is you have to start with the basics. You have to go back
Yep.
to the basics, the gut health. What do you eat? Lifestyle, sleep, stress. So I'm really happy to hear you say that. I think that as women, we want the quick fix a lot of the times because we're busy too.
Yeah. We're
So
busy, yeah. And we're also inundated with marketing. Like, one of the very first things that women, if they've gained weight, what that they want to do is just eat less and move more. They think like, oh, I'll do more cardio or I'll increase my exercise or I'll starve myself because these are messages that we have just heard time and time again. Whereas, like you say, menopause weight gain isn't actually really anything that you are doing quote unquote wrong. It's not like you're eating too much. It's not like you're doing bad choices. You have to just realize that your body has changed and we kind of need to relearn what our actual bodies need now and what is our requirements now because our body internally actually doesn't look the same as it did 20s and 30s. So it's going to require different things.
I actually think it's kind of actually a wake up call for us to take care of our bodies on a whole other
Yes.
level. Like basically level up what you're doing because if you're starting to have these experiences in your early 40s and you want to live another 15 years, well, this is our body telling us, okay, guys, we got to wake up. We got to level up what we're doing for our health. So let's talk about that maybe. Like, what are these symptoms telling us to do for our body? How should we level this up now? You said minerals. Other
So
things.
let's dive into some of the nutrition aspects. Okay. So there's lots of different foods and we want to have a balanced diet. But when we're talking just about the visceral fat, these are the kind of foods that we would be looking at in terms of our clients that they are consuming on a daily basis to reduce this visceral fat. Reason being, and the foods that I'm going to talk about now can try and offset that no longer anti-inflammatory hormone that we have in our body, i.e. estrogen. Estrogen is a fantastic anti-inflammatory hormone, which keeps a lot of these things at bay, which brings me back to what I was saying earlier, where you can have an entire life where you've had a healthy weight gain and so on, and you've maybe got away with having maybe bad choices, maybe a little bit rough around the edge and so on. But you remember your body internally was doing a lot of that work for you. And unfortunately now in menopause, your body doesn't have as much of those receptors or like estrogen and so on to be battling things like that hormones. And this is why then, like you say, it is a nice time to pause and reflect and then really relearn what our body actually needs nutritionally. So let's break that down in terms of foods that we would want to be implementing in terms of women that we're looking to reduce that visceral fat. Firstly, it's protein, not anything that we haven't heard before. Protein is fantastic in terms of it provides us a lot of obviously minerals, vitamins. It provides a lot of health benefits inside our body, as well as helping in terms of even menopausal symptoms, reducing those, strengthening your muscle, like I was talking about earlier, and also reducing your inflammation. As a rough guideline, you'd be wanting to start at about 3 palm-sized portions of protein a day, and then having between 1 or 2 snacks. It can be, obviously depends on where you're starting. We would always just recommend, let's just put the basics in place. Make sure you start with just having 3 portion size of protein. That will be a fantastic baseline if you're not already doing that. And then you can start to build it up with regards to maybe introducing 1 or 2 high protein snacks. The next thing that you would want to look at is fiber. Fiber is your best friend for visceral fat during menopause. It's honestly one of your best things for a lot of things because it provides a lot of benefits. And circling right back to what I was saying about gut health, when you're no longer having that nice range of bacteria in your gut, which can make it hard to digest food, break food down, remove from your bowels and so on. Fiber does a lot of that for us. So on average, you'll be wanting to consume about 25 grams of fiber a day. On average, currently right now, a woman in the United States will consume 12 grams of fiber. So women in the United States, and this is just a study that was released on the United States, I'm not picking on the United States, it was just a recent study that was done, but in general, women are deficient in fiber, not just low, but deficient in fiber. So that's one of the first things that you would want to increase, is possibly even doubling your fiber intake. Now, magnesium. Now, magnesium has a lot of great health benefits in terms of lots of different ranges. It's usually referred to as the golden mineral of menopause. When I talk about magnesium, I am not talking about a supplement. Okay. Now, yes, if you cannot get enough magnesium foods into your diet for food preferences, whatever it may be, of course, then you would maybe want to utilize a supplement. But because of shifts in our metabolism when it comes to relation of minerals, so as we talked about earlier, metabolism in terms of burning calories, energy, and so on doesn't really change to about the age of 65. But metabolism, when we talk about it in terms of how our body absorbs minerals, that does change. That changes around about the age of 40 in a woman. This is why a lot of women can become mineral deficient in menopause, even if they haven't changed their overall food intake. So they've always been healthy, they've been very good, everything's felt great, they've had great health, and then all of a sudden everything changes and they're thinking, well, I'm still eating healthy, what's happening? And a lot of that is down to that how our body is now breaking down and absorbing minerals. And the reason I want to flag that is because a fantastic study was released at the end of 2023 by the North American Menopause Society that followed two groups of people, two groups of women, both menopausal years. One of these groups only consumed their dietary intake required on a daily basis from real food of magnesium. The other group got it from supplements. Now, both groups seen a reduction of visceral fat and a reduction of menopausal symptoms. However, the group that were consuming only food for magnesium had a significant decrease. They also had a fantastic increase in their brain health. So there's lots of now research that's being done in terms of getting minerals from actual food compared to supplements. And they do believe, although this is not fully signed off, they do believe it's down to that metabolism shifts, that our bodies cannot break down and absorb the minerals from supplements in the same pace that it can with food. So the only supplement, and this brings me on to my next thing, the only supplement that is actually recommended by both the British and the North American Menopause Society for menopausal women is vitamin D. We obviously can't get enough vitamin D from our food, so we would recommend having a supplement of vitamin D. Again, it's fantastic for a range of different elements, but if you're consuming a balanced diet, you don't really require a lot of other supplements. Obviously, again, if you have food preferences or food intolerances, you may need to close up those gaps, but that would be the only supplement that you actually quote unquote need is vitamin D. The other thing that we would want to always make sure that women are consuming if they are focused on weight loss during menopause and reducing that visceral fat is carbohydrates. I know forever we have been demonized, so a lot of women think this is hypocritical with what they have already been taught. But honestly, the fantastic anti-inflammatory benefits that come from whole grain carbohydrates is amazing. Whole grain carbohydrates also store a lot of the fiber that we require on a daily basis. So that again is one of the very first things that we would reintroduce to a lot of women's diets when they come to us is whole grain carbohydrates. It also helps with regards to a lot of their brain fog and energy symptoms that they'll be experiencing on those kind of menopausal symptoms as well. The very last thing that we would want to refocus on then in terms of nutrition is antioxidant foods. Now, there is quite a big drive at the minute in terms of things like an anti-inflammatory diet. That's slightly overhyped, so I'm not talking about going down the route of like a detox or any of those more fad kind of things. I'm just talking about maybe not having as much processed foods. Now, I'm using the word not much. Balance is great. There's nothing wrong with the odd processed thing and so on. But maybe just not having as many processed items as maybe you'd had before, maybe cutting back on a little bit of your alcohol, and including lots of freshly colored berries and so on are fantastic when it comes to antioxidants and helping our body flush out some of those anti-inflammatory, that inflammation, those kind of toxins that then in turn is building up that visceral fat in the background.
I love that. And I think just to talk one more point about the food that you talked about, so many amazing aspects that food can do for us, but it's so readily available in our culture today. We take it for granted almost, but as many experts say, food is medicine. And what
Food is medicine.
it's medicine, and we take that for granted a lot. So fully support what you just said about, the rainbow of colors for the antioxidants,
Yeah.
wide variety of fiber, for example, to help restore your gut health and your overall health. I love everything you said. I really hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Laura, do you have any parting comments?
No, thank you very much. Hopefully, at the end of this talk, you will have a little bit more of an insight into that weight gain, and hopefully give yourself some kindness to realize that your body has gone through a large shift. You know, don't be so hard on yourself. Realize that there is so much power in knowledge. Allow yourself to get that knowledge, and then allow yourself to learn how to thrive during menopause.
I love that. Give yourself grace and embrace this next stage of life as a gift. Love it. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you so much.